It's a big game tonight, boys. You can't deny it. England need a victory against Greece. Of course, they won at Wembley. 8 players have dropped out of Lee Carsley's final England squad.
Even the players don't want it.
They're scared. They've got to go into the Greek labyrinth.
Exactly. So as a result, England have called up Morgan Rogers, Jared Bowen, Jared Branthwaite, Tino Livramento and James Trafford. Spelling slightly differently, but 2 Jareds in there. Never thought I'd live to see the day.
Yeah.
Nothing else really we can say on that.
No Marcuses, so you're neutral about whether or not it's nice to have Jared's in there.
That's true. Picking up the pieces, perhaps, I don't know. But we have a Morgan in there, Morgan Rogers. Some said that he deserved this. I think a fair few people did. Luke Aaron Moore, our very own, suggested at the start of the season that he's on for it. He's finally got the England call up. It is because players have dropped out.
His form has dropped as well, and he goes.
There's a lot of dropping, but Carsley hasn't dropped the ball. He's having one final swing in charge as England manager. He likes to promote the youth, as we know, give them a bit of a taste of the biscuit. And Rogers, I think, is an exciting player. Obviously, Villa's form in general has not been great in the last few games, but he's had an impressive season in the Premier League and the Champions League thus far. Are you excited to see him? I mean, we may not see him. Are you excited to see him in the England squad?
I am excited to see him get into the setup, yes. Although, I think, before I say this, I want to make it clear I am aware that the Nations League is competitive and there's a lot riding on it. But this
it's a major trophy.
Is possibly one of the most pointless England squads in memory, given that Lee Carsley is on the way out. So for those players coming in and getting their first taste of the biscuit, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think that informs why so many players are dropped out as well, if we're not going to be naive about it. And that in itself makes it quite interesting. But it's a weird one, isn't it?
Not for me.
No, not for you. You like it, but...
No,
I don't like to use the word traitor, Jim, but you're dangerously close.
Yeah.
I think if England don't get promoted from Group B in the Nations League...
What a phrase. What a phrase. You know what? I'm back in. The Nations League is delivering.
You see, everybody?
We knew it was going to be nonsense, and it's delivering.
Sometimes all it takes is to win them over, is just a little bit of a reminder of what's at stake. And England, yes, if they don't get promoted from Group B at the first time of asking, Vish, it is maybe bordering on embarrassing. So there's a lot on this game tonight.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes, it would be.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
After we got relegated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially with a coach that won't sing in the national anthem.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a disgrace. Am I doing it right?
That's why we're getting rid of him, getting another coach.
Yeah, now we know a bit more of him. Do you think it's just that he wasn't confident he'd get the words right?
There's a lot made about the fact that he was he's been at Premier League games and often been on his phone. I think he was just trying to Shazam the national anthem. So I think that ties into that.
I'm not singing it loud enough, it won't. Oh, poor old Carsley. Well, look, some people have been very critical. Thomas Tuchel is not involved at all.
I think that's fine. I think
he's got a lot on though, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but there's logistically maybe we don't know. But also, I think what Tuchel's job will be and what Carsley's job is right now don't necessarily overlap all that much, to be fair. Mm-hmm. Carsley was supposed to be in position to manage this initial period ahead of them getting someone in. We probably, initially, certainly I thought it was going to be to the end of the season. And, they pulled the cord on Tuchel quite early in terms of what that was all sorted. Second week of October, they said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't necessarily mind that he's not as involved in the squad at the moment, because the squad, when everyone's fit, picks itself. And actually, not even when everyone's fit. The squad, when it's on the eve of a major tournament, picks itself, because even when some people aren't fit, they get in, yeah?
Right.
I think the thing I think is interesting for this squad in particular is if you look at the areas where England need to and want to get better, it's at left back where Lewis Hall is now in. Mm. It's at centre back trying to work out the best combinations that allow England to say either play 2 or a 3. Mm-hmm. And in Jared Branthwaite and kind of to a lesser extent Taylor Harwood-Bellis, because it's his first full call up, they're looking through their options a bit more. Someone like Rico Lewis as well. I think he's always going to have certainly at this stage of his professional career, he's always going to be seen as like a incredibly luxury utility player. Mm-hmm. because of the nature of, I suppose, his skill sets, because they're so broad. England are still solving something here, or moving towards a solution with this squad, despite the number of pullouts. Because, I mean, does it really matter if Bukayo Saka plays more for England at this juncture? Probably not.
No, I think in a bigger picture sense, though, I do think Tuchel at some point has to start building relationships with the players. He's new to international management. He's new to the England setup, so he needs to sort of get his foot in the door and get acclimatised there. I don't see how there would be any downside to him starting here. I mean, obviously he's made that decision for his own reasons, and that essentially is the end of it. But it does make this camp feel like, kind of sorry to go over old ground a little bit, but it feels like for these players coming in and themselves getting settled into the England camp, they're immediately going to be unsettled, because anything that's learned by them is essentially sort of, depending on how joined up the process is at the moment, kind of invisible to Tuchel.
But you're talking about tactics, though. The fact is that they put on the tracksuit, they go to the camp, they do all this sort of stuff. I think you'd rather have that than not, and making an actual appearance as well. I don't think it's as pointless as what you're saying. The only thing I might say is that perhaps the FA are thinking, they spoke to Tuchel for whatever reason. There may well be some personal stuff with Tuchel. He's thinking, actually, I'm not ready. They might think, you know what? Maybe they do see Carsley as a future England manager, or they. I mean, at some point, they need to start looking at English managers.
Give him a lot of media training.
Yeah,
get him back to the under-21s.
Indeed, I mean, Tuchel's only got an 18-month contract. Now we'll see. Even if he lasts that long, but obviously time will tell. But I think giving Carsley as much experience as he can get, not only is that good for him, but it's also, he's going back to the under-21s. It also, I think, is good to have someone in the ecosystem who has managed England and has done, somewhat of a campaign, if you like. So I'm not so against it. I think maybe if Tuchel was there, I know maybe Carsley would feel undermined or something. Goodness knows. The fact is, though, he's not there. But he may well get a chance to manage England in the UEFA Nations League in this campaign. Because, everybody, you may be unaware of this, that if England don't manage to do a good job in Greece and win, because I think England, as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure it's head-to-head that it goes on rather than goal difference. So England, obviously, they lost 2-1 at Wembley to Greece. They would need to win by 2 goals or score more than 2 in a victory for that to go in their favour. And that would, and then if they would want to beat Ireland, secure top spot, and then they would triumphantly return to Nations League Group A at the first time of asking. But if they finish second in their group, and I know what you're thinking, is that a bit of a disappointment, boo-hoo? Well, don't worry, because UEFA have thrown everybody a big old juicy bone. They will, as it's written here, they will be forced to play in a promotion relegation playoff against one of the third place teams in League A. The playoffs will be held home and away over 2 legs in March. Come on. UEFA know what we want and they give it to us.
Sure. Yeah, it strikes me that as people working at UEFA who've they've looked at their in tray for the day, it's like, I've got nothing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If someone realises that my job doesn't have any job in it, then I'm going to get sacked. So I'm going to have to knock something up really quickly. What can we make them do?
Yeah,
because they have to do it. We'll force them to do it.
Yeah. So I think that's. I mean, does that kind of make it a bit better for you, Vish? Because you said that, is there any point, Tuchel should be involved, but he could get a chance if England don't take care of business and they finish second in the group. He could get a little tilt at the Nations League.
Yeah, I mean, competitive games are good. Obviously, this is the point of it. Yeah, it's to put some meaning behind.
That's it, getting on board.
Yeah, but it's just as Jim said there.
It's not what you said when I broke the news to you about this just before we came in.
Yeah, but as Jim said there, it's so confected, isn't it? It's like, and then you've got to play. It's like saying,
everyone's got a chance.
And if England finish third in their group, they must enter the 2025 Royal Rumble. Love to see it. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Bollocks, obviously. That's a kid to
It's
this.
a bit like I don't know if you've ever had this, but at a grassroots but organised competitive level, you can get to a semi-final of some kind of cup competitions, losing your way there. You go down into the plate, and then it's the shield, and then it's I don't know, the teapot or whatever. You go all the way down. You think, how are we in a semi-final? Like, when are we gonna? This is just ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, or like because they generally still do this in a lot of like age group tournaments. where they do placings. So they work out who's like, if there's 18 teams in the tournament, they work out who's...
I get that for kids. Do you know what I mean? I get that for you.
No. But they do it like under 19 level. Like in cricket, that's a thing. It's pathetic. Yeah. It's utterly pathetic.
But this is good, though.
Let losers be losers.
Yeah. But this is good, though. So England, there is a second chance at promotion. So if England don't get a result tonight, just... careful.
We're still in
Those who are trying to embarrass us, don't listen to them.
We might get to enjoy yet more Nations League, in which England are playing, because obviously whoever's playing will all be watching it, I'm sure.
That's it, Jim.
You said that like you found a loophole and you were sharing it with the nation.
I feel like a lot of people might not know this information.
What would it take for you to not want to watch England?
It's blimey. I don't know.
About becoming a German manager.
A herd of German wild horses, Jim. I honestly don't know, but that's it. England till I die. You know how the song goes.
I do.
What if Saudi Arabia took over England? What if the PIF took over England? Would you stop watching?
That would be a compelling reason not to watch. But we had to sing the Saudi anthem before the game as well. Yeah,
what if England played a green?
But then the thing is, Vish, as soon as the ball's kicked, they've got me. They do have me. So England playing Greece tonight, as I say, and in terms of the Nations League, it's an important game. In terms of the Nations League, okay,
it is. It's a revenge mission.
There you go. See?
That was genuinely embarrassing to lose to Greece in the way they did. Lee Carsley will want to put that right. Like being serious for a second.
There we go.
He has to, he's in an interesting situation now, isn't he? This hasn't gone the way you would have expected in either direction. People thinking, maybe he could, put in a claim for the job, or maybe he'll just be a little bit of a custodian for a while. But because that Greece defeat was so chastening, and because he's had the situation with the anthem and the situation with, how he's appeared to be quite muddled in press conferences, which we now know is due to him having to kind of obfuscate a lot, and is reasonable. But it's still, he's been in a spotlight, which has probably been quite a difficult thing for him. This is now an opportunity for him to kind of end this little period on a high and put his reputation kind of back to where I think it probably belongs. I mean, I think we can all agree he overthought the Greece game.
Yeah, he did.
And I think that's not a fair representation of him as a coach. But
we know that coaches from this country can achieve promotion. It's just when you get to the top level.
You're right.
But I think I do agree with that, because when Carsley first came in against Ireland and so on, and Trent was playing those raking balls from right back, because he had it all day to do it, and so everyone thought, oh my goodness, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for.
Angel Gomez as well.
There you go. Yeah. But as I tweeted on the night against Greece, I was like, can we put the handbrake back on, please? Because this is just... And so for Carsley, I think, if indeed he wanted the job in future, which he suggested that he would, I know he's a bit muddled, but end on a high.
Yeah, I think now in hindsight we can look back on, I suppose, his muddledness in his press briefings and probably rightly conclude that he was doing a lot of, I suppose, shielding for the FA. Bear in mind that...
Could have done it a bit better, but you're right.
Yeah, but bear in mind that he almost certainly knew that Thomas Tuchel, those talks were in an advanced stage, and that it was going to happen. Yeah?
Yes.
And so he couldn't give too much away. He would have... Obviously, he ended up tying himself in knots, but he was also he was the unfortunate, front-facing FA member, wasn't he? Because they're not getting a chief exec or whoever else doing a press conference, 3 times in a week, whatever, or however many it would be post-match as well. And so, because he was the most accessible, he'd constantly have to field those questions, and kind of naturally you tie yourself in knots. How often do we see it with seasoned managers where they say something at the start of the season that they then contradict at the end of the season? It's just the problem with him was having not really done it before and then having to do it in such a concentrated manner.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
He became unstuck. So I don't think we could...
it's a tricky task facing the media at the best of times. But
and I think maybe in hindsight we should look back on that and think, oh, okay, put the pieces together a bit more. And then at the same time, I think you rightly say, this isn't the end of Lee Carsley, head coach, manager, whatever. This is someone very young and very early in their journey, and he's only going to learn from what's happened so far.
It's be interesting to see what happens with him now, because obviously we know he's going back to the under-21s. Now, something we all want, but is perhaps us projecting, is for the FA to have a pathway where there is someone who is, if they are in charge of the under-21s and they have done a good job, then it's reasonable for them to be considered a candidate for the main job. But I wonder, is Carsley going to have a second go at that? Is he actually sort of clogging up that pathway by stepping back to the under-21s? I wonder how long he'll be in the job if they decide to go down that route.
We don't know, but if he is an FA man, which of course he currently is, and if he continues to be in whatever guise that is, then again, having someone in the ecosystem who has managed England, albeit in the Nations League, I don't think that's a bad thing. So we will have to wait and see what happens with Carsley, but I think that they've gone for Tuchel, but I think for Carsley it's invaluable experience and he's going to get a little bit more against Greece and Ireland.
I wonder if we have a Nations League specific manager. No. You get your Warnock in if you need promotion. Marcus gets 2 England managers to be proud of.
Now you are talking.
Like it. Yeah. One sings the anthem, one doesn't.
Yeah.
Perfect.
When one manages, one stays behind.
I know who you're thinking.
Yeah, I know where we're going with this.
I know who you're thinking.
Now, Carsley is going to have to pick the team, though, because he is still the manager, technically. And he's got some... Vish, you said a little bit earlier that the team or the squad kind of picks itself. Well, not so much this time round. Of course, I mean, you look at the defenders. Branthwaite has been a late call-up. I might suggest I'd love to see him start. I mean, there was a lot of talk, not just from Evertonians, but obviously they're the ones who saw him the most last season, that he should be in the Euro squad. Yeah. And some of them even saying, he's a left-footed centre-half, he should start. Now, Gay comes in and does a great job, okay? And Gay, now, you think of him as a starter for England. Yeah. Gay is in the squad, Konsa's in there as well, has been used as a full-back more often. You look around... who else you've got centre half wise? I think we could and should see Branthwaite starting because
Uncle Mark is right footed, isn't he? He never tends to play there, but I wonder if we might see a bit more of that in the future of his career. But I think Branthwaite is. I would very much like to see him start, and Lewis Hall as well. I think him and Tino Livramento were brilliant against Arsenal the other week. Absolutely fantastic. Just nullified the threats on the wings. And Hall is a player I thought looked very interesting at Chelsea. And I think it's taken him a little while to kind of get into the flow of things at Newcastle. But it's starting to become clear why they wanted him. And obviously there is a gaping hole there, and that's for him to stake a claim to it.
Well, indeed. And Jonathan Northcroft wrote a piece in the Sunday Times and said that Carsley actually could be throwing England a bit of a bone here with giving Lewis Hall his first minute.
Yeah, I mean, like I said that at the start of the show. Like there is, it's not the perfect squad, but within it are players who, quietly have been establishing themselves at club level, who can then move on into the international scene. And it's interesting, isn't it? I never really put too firm a point on it, but it obviously does matter that these players will come under the eye of Tuchel with England caps under their belt, even if it's only from the previous 3 months.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is something to be said for that. Even as you said, like getting used to the environment, being around St George's Park with the full team, making an impression among your teammates. Like this is the kind of stuff that does matter, despite the fact you don't see it.
Yeah. In midfield as well, as we say with centre half, there's with absentees and so on, not just centre half. There's chance for others to play. With no Declan Rice in there, you'd imagine he'll go with Angel Gomez. Curtis Jones is in the squad as well. He's uncapped, and I know you're a fan of his, Jim. He's a lovely midfield
brilliant player, and I think he might be a genuinely really great option in that England midfield to sort of knit together Rice and Bellingham or Rice and whoever. I think he's got so much to his game.
He does. Very intelligent
and I think
player.
He could be kind of the missing piece. I know that I myself have mocked us many times over the years for looking at an England midfielder and going, maybe he's the missing piece. We've never had a player like that before. And obviously it all blows up in our faces. But I think, I want to see him get a start in one of these 2 games for sure. And I think actually, given there's only Jones, Gibbs, White, Gomez and Gallagher listed as midfielders in the squad. Yeah. Although that's partly because Bellingham is listed as a forward. But
there's not as many obvious ones. I mean, if you think there'll almost certainly be 3 of them who would be starting the game, you would think, unless he tries something a bit fancy.
Honestly, FIFA the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Angel Gomez, Jude Bellingham, and Gibbs White in the middle.
Did he not do this in the first game against Greece?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Double down.
Yeah, double.
Don't even give it 20 minutes.
Stick to it. Let's have a bit of fun.
What about the forward places? I mean, obviously Harry Kane's in the side, and there's certain players going for that spot.
I mean, that's a little bit boring, isn't it? Yeah, Kane,
but the
Kane,
wide
Gordon,
positions.
Madueke.
Wide positions.
I'd go,
And again, Jarrod Bowen has only just been called up because of injuries.
I'd go Gordon and Madueke generally.
Just to remind people, we should say that of the 8 England players have dropped out. I know we're talking about forwards now, but Levi Colwill, Cole Palmer, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Aaron Ramsdale. So a few of those players obviously would be starting in the wide positions, or at least vying for that, but certainly starting, yeah. So Anthony Gordon is an obvious one. Madueke, I think, has been quite exciting. And Bowen, really. So there's only those 3, really.
Well, Morgan Rogers could do it, especially with a left-footed left back behind him.
Yeah, so I mean, the funny thing is, if Carsley was going to come up with something a little bit interesting and different and play players not in their natural positions, this probably would have been the game. But because of what happened against Greece at Wembley, I wonder if he'll be bold and brave to do that. I wonder if he should do that or not. So I suspect you're right. I think it probably would be Gordon starting on the left. And now Bowen's been called. I wouldn't be shocked if it was him, but I'd like to see Madueke given
I think Madueke has earned that chance.
Yeah. Well, the fact is he was called up, whereas Bowen, as I say, has only just joined the side.
He's earned a chance to be a starter and push for that, because you've got to take advantage of the fact that Bukayo Saka's not in the squad.
Yes.
So you need to look at other options. We know what Bowen gives, and we know what he provides in game as well when he comes on and is very diligent. But I think Madueke has got a bit more as a starter. Yeah.
It'll be intriguing to see what Carsley comes up with. Players are dropping like flies with regards to this international football break. We mentioned 8 players who have dropped out of Lee Carsley's final England squad. Saka, Alexander-Arnold, Rice, Grealish and Ramsdale were all injured at the weekend. However, the reasons for the unavailability of Phil Foden, Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill, who all played 90 minutes for their clubs at the weekend, are yet to be clarified.
Are you suspecting treachery?
Yes. No, officially. No, Jim. Mm-hmm. But it is slightly odd.
Across Europe that it's happening.
Well, across Europe as well. So
where does that rank as far as treachery goes? The traitors of our enemies are our friends.
It's an intriguing one to try and work out. So again, it's just slightly odd that it hasn't been clarified. As I say, I'm not suggesting there's any foul play and so on. And I know that this wouldn't be the first time something like this has happened. And you can understand with one or two of the players thinking, actually, do you know what, I'm a bit exhausted or whatever. It's maybe, Jim, as you said, some people think it's maybe not the most important international break for England.
It's not great it doesn't suggest Carsley's standing is particularly great, does it? Well, sorry, why are they pulling out? That's absolutely none of your business.
But look, I have to be careful because we don't want to project on these individuals, but it is strange that it's not been clarified. Whereas in a couple of other countries, they're being a little bit more transparent about the reasons for certain players not playing. Norway is a good example. Their captain, Martin Odegaard, has pulled out of the squad. Now, he played 90 minutes against Chelsea at the weekend. Yeah. And Odegaard said, when you haven't practiced football in the last 9 weeks, it's natural not to be 100% yet. I need to listen to my body, complete this rehab process and get my foot back in good shape.
So he actually met up with the squad. He actually flew out to Norway and then came back. So
yeah, I mean, it is interesting and such a crucial player. Yeah. You know, one of... only a handful of truly world-class players that Norway have produced over the years. Do you know what I mean? Now, that's what you're looking at. And yet, I don't know what the clamour is in Norway, but it seems like it's maybe a touch more understanding. Whereas if the reason for, say, Phil Foden saying this, you could imagine your usual dickheads going, well, you're a traitor, whatever.
Yeah.
So I found that quite interesting from Odegaard. And actually... I thought it was quite refreshing, and I think that perhaps if you do have some more high-profile players saying this, then maybe it will make it a touch more understandable and okay. I mean, we sort of joked last time about Harry Kane, desperate to scoring goals and he wants to play, and it was like, Harry, actually, somebody should say to you, no, mate, have a rest. Do you know what I mean? I
think... we're all grown-ups. We can watch around the Premier League games, the weekend before an international break.
Yeah.
particularly one that I appreciate these are competitive games, but certainly before a friendly and be like, no chance he's going, no chance he's going, no chance he's going. And I think that's reasonable because not just the amount of football they play, but just it's about being a bit smart, yeah? I suppose the England side of it is because it seems like England haven't had clarification of why they're pulling out. There is a bit of, as Jim said, like, fuck off, what's it to do with you? And I don't think that's a bad thing from the club's point of view, but I think the way it's framed over here is always seen as like, club versus country and stuff like that. Whereas actually a lot of countries are fairly like united on that. Even the Mbappe situation we had in the last round,
yes,
where there were a lot of people complaining about it.
Well, he's absent again.
Yeah,
from France this time round.
But the way it was held, like Deschamps was like, but like I've talked to him about it. It's fine. Honestly, it's fine. And everyone's like, well, it's not fine. He's like, no, it's Kylian Mbappe. It's fucking fine.
Yeah.
In the way that the Odegaard thing is fine.
And it helped that France then went out and pumped whoever they were playing.
Yeah. And when you look at those England players as well that have pulled out, I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of them play basically every month this year.
Well, Foden has played a little bit less for Man City since the summer. But that is because he probably is exhausted. Think about the amount of football he's played. And very young man still, the amount of pressure. So obviously they've seen something where they think, and obviously now with all the injuries. Now there is a point here that actually, and this is the club versus country thing you're talking about. I don't think a player, if a player wants to play for their country, which 99 times out of 100 they do, I think it is a bit unfair if a club says, look, we need you, we can't afford to have you injured and blah, 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 blah. I'm sure those conversations go on and because you've got interest of one and interest of the other. So it would be a shame to discover if indeed a player was doing that. But out with that, they do have to look after the players. And I know sometimes you get arguments with one medical member of staff is saying this, and one, it's quite rare you would get that kind of standoff. But in the case of Foden, clearly you don't want him to burn out because that's bad news for everybody.
I mean, it suits everybody for this to become the norm, where the club fitness teams and the international fitness teams do work together a little bit more, because we know that clubs have internal data about like red zones and things like that, where they know that a player is coming up to a point where they're going to be more susceptible to injury because of the load they've had. Now, I'm sure that they already kind of collaborate on that and think about that. But you're right. I think hopefully it will become normalised that sometimes a player will not be available for a squad because it's a better thing for that player in the long term. Now, it's a really kind of hot topic at the moment, clearly among footballers. Rodri was talking about the schedule in the summer and how it was just unsustainable, and now he's got an ACL, and we're seeing it feels like we're seeing more of those injuries. There's the Club World Cup coming up in the summer as well, so there's going to be a lot of players like Phil Foden who will be involved in that, and the players themselves are constantly talking about how there's too much football. So I mean, if the authorities aren't going to listen and change that, then they kind of have a responsibility themselves to take the opportunities to lessen that load where they can. And I think this is probably an example of that.
And Foden,
there are probably players who could carry an injury into this camp, but they shouldn't. Yeah,
and also as well, anybody knows, especially in the attacking positions that Phil Foden play. I mean, we're talking about Phil Foden a lot here. Obviously, there's other players. Palmer, another one. The competition is fierce in their particular positions, and again, doesn't mean to say that they should or shouldn't pull out, but they know as fierce competitors themselves, and they have an enormous desire to start games for their country and play games and get involved and not just sort of sit on the bench in tournaments and be a touch disappointed. They know that if they do miss a couple of games, someone could come. I mean, not even Madueke. I know it seems unlikely that he would usurp, say, Saka or even Foden, who could play there, or Palmer. But I mean,
it's an opportunity for him to stake a claim, isn't it?
Exactly, and
all
surely,
those players got in there in that same way.
And when you come, and it's not necessarily positionally, is it? Because when it comes to a major tournament, and you've got to whittle it down to a squad you take, you might pick, say, a Madueke over another midfielder because you're like, but I know what he can do.
Well, look what happened to Sterling. When Sterling pulled out that England squad, there were suggestions that it was maybe tiredness, fatigue, or he didn't feel he was ready. Now, I doubt that Southgate would be the type of operator who just said, right, well, that's it, you're dead to me. But he never really came back for England because the competition was fierce. So this idea that players are just going to phone it in and go, I can't be bothered with that.
And also look at Mark Gahey on the other side of it. An opportunity was there, and he was best placed to step step in and take it.
Indeed. Some other international football news for you. Did you see that Nottingham Forest's Anthony Elanga was left out of the Sweden squad for this international break? It's been reported that Elanga missed a team meal following Sweden's 3-0 victory over Estonia in October. When asked about the situation, Sweden manager Jon Dahl Tomasson said, "You'd have to ask Anthony himself if he's angry or not. He hasn't called me. Not yet. I tried to call him, but we haven't been able to connect." He finished by saying, "It's a bit unusual, but there's nothing we can change. Perhaps he's been very busy."
There was another Call of Duty out soon. Could it be a Luke Shaw situation? He just desperately wanted to get back to the hotel?
Maybe. It seems a strange one because presumably he's one of their better players.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he was worried.
If you can't get hold of him, you can't tell him that he's in the squad.
Maybe he's worried. Maybe, I don't know. Like I'm just guessing here. But maybe Sweden, when they get together for team meals, they split the bill, and he was like, "Look, I've been burned before, and I've told them so many times.
Don't want a starter."
Yeah, and even really a dessert. But so yeah, maybe that's it. But it's laughable that Jon Dahl Tomasson is like, yeah, try to connect with him, but nothing's getting through. It's
Had
like,
to go public.
come on, yeah,
Bollocks. Isn't
yeah, just message him or like it's not hard.
Yeah.
It really isn't hard, of course. Right, everybody. Something that is hard is Hervé Renard's
Ridiculous,
pecs.
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. We knew it was coming though, didn't
Yeah.
we?
Well, of course, he is, as we know, having his second spell at Saudi Arabia. And they are playing Australia. In Australia. Of course, he was there for the Women's World Cup, managing France. But, I mean, Renard was linked to the Australia job before he went to Saudi. They must be gutted that they missed out on him. You would, wouldn't you?
I mean, I'm gutted that we've missed out on him, so...
Yeah. The game does kick off at 9 a.m. in the UK, so it's kind of happening as we...
So we're going to come out and we're going to come out to a new world. Do a react.
He's been sacked. Oh, no. Get back in the studio. So it's great to see him back on the international stage, even though it is with Saudi Arabia and all their money. But Jim, what are you looking forward to with Renard in the Saudi Arabia dugout?
Have you prepared... Hold on, Jim. Have you prepared anything for this?
I'm happy to freewheel on this. Yeah, I don't really watch a lot of the Saudi Arabian national team, I've got to be honest, but maybe I'll start watching.
You saw them beat
Because
Argentina under Renard in the World Cup, Jim.
What I want from him is...
Tops off.
All I need is a humid climate. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. The shirt's going to be white. I don't want it to be kind of completely soaked through.
No.
But just a little bit humid, sticking to the body a little bit.
A little
That's
nipple?
what I want.
A little nipple.
Not initially, but by the end. By the end, both of them visible. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Like a night out with Pete Donaldson.
Exactly.
You think this
yeah.
is all
Although,
the-
to be fair though, they're like bullets, aren't they? At the beginning of the night, at the height of summer, they're visible.
So you think you'd like to see all this, and you think it will go down well in Saudi Arabia?
No, this is taking place in Australia.
Okay, so we can do it there. Okay, good. This new job. Why am I doing this? This new job does put him a little bit closer to the Newcastle gig, doesn't
There
it?
you go. Well, staying in Australia, gentlemen, let's finish with this. Did you see that there was an animal pitch invasion in an A-League women's game between Wellington Phoenix and Canberra United? I said an animal. I mean, it was an animal. It sounds like there was like a herd of something.
It was an individual animal.
It was a dog, and the game had to be stopped for a couple of minutes, but fans chanted, "Who let the dogs out?"
It wasn't just any dog.
It was your dog.
It was the dog of the Wellington Phoenix captain.
Yeah, okay.
That is a nice
Annalie
little
Longo.
bit of potential shithousing there.
Oh, I like that.
Like the Jurien Timber thing at the weekend where he dropped the ball.
Yes.
I didn't realise this at the time, but a few people have suggested it's because Kai Havertz was down getting treatment, so he was buying a little bit of time. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I mean, releasing your own dog onto the pitch to just get a little bit of a breather.
Oh, that is
no one's going to be unhappy about it.
If Jose Mourinho starts taking a dog to games, it is a bit David Brent, but you know he's listening to this, and it's something that he's never thought about. Imagine that, just run, my pretty, run.
I feel like he'd do it in the way that Mr. Burns does it.
Exactly.
Release the hounds.
Yeah. It's a bit like that. But when the opposition strikers through on goal, get out. Jose, that's happened 3 times in this game, and the dog keeps running back to you, and you give it a biscuit every time. Come on. Come on. Oh,
But I was talking to a good boy.
Thank you very much for listening to the Football Ramble, part of the Acast Creator Network. Jim and I will be back tomorrow alongside Andy and Pete to react to tonight's England game. Looking forward to that. Do follow us on X, TikTok and Instagram at Football Ramble, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vishy.
Thank you.
And thank you, Hervé Renard. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.